What's up, people? Come back with another brief exercise on critical reasoning. There's a small passage. As usual, you can pause the video, just quickly read it. This is question 1 and this is question 2, as usual. It's easy read, okay? The trick is in the critical reasoning, but I'll get to that later. As I explain, the options too. Some of them are a little close, but the reading and the solving should not take you more than in this case, should not take you more than 5 minutes. Make sure you take the time seriously, okay? Before we start explaining this, I have to remind you again gently, you're doing a lot of reading, okay? It's not about 2 passages a day and 5 questions a day and you're all set for whatever exam you're preparing for, whether it's CAT, GMAT or GRE. It's important for you to keep the reading habit intact, and what you're reading from is very important, okay? I mean, you're in the lucky generation that you have a lot of free stuff online available, a lot of wonderful websites, Aeon being one, Google Books. You can just go search, read previews from a lot of really good books. So much free stuff available for you online. It's important for you to read, okay? Read good quality stuff, read stuff that challenges you. If again the results are not coming, please don't trouble yourself too much, okay? I sincerely want to remind you of this again and again. I see a lot of students being over competitive and getting depressed sometimes about the results and demotivated. Please remember, it's not a race, okay? I mean, as much as society will enforce that on you, it's not true. There's no race. You're not part of race. There's no need that you have to get to the IIMs or to Harvard by the time you're 24 or 25 or 23 or 22 or 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Go on and on, okay? Everyone does things at their own pace. The point is to be able to put in your effort sincerely, whatever you can. Again, remember, some people look really good and get a lot of good marks and you wonder why they're doing it. Not all of us are the same, okay? Some of us are a little more privileged than the others. Some of us, and privilege comes in various shapes and sizes. What I want you to remember is that you cannot really compete with other people because no one person is similar to another person, okay? Our struggles are different. Our gifts are different. The advantages we have are different. The disadvantages we have are different. They're not equal either. Everybody has their own, issues. So if it's not happening, let's say you're getting them wrong quite often, it's okay. I mean, it's, the sky's not going to fall on your head. You'll still do fine in life. Point is to be able to get better, okay? Incrementally, you're reading a lot, trying to understand, looking for help from people. Eventually get there, okay? But the part that I want you to do well and regularly and sincerely is use the free stuff, all the free stuff that's available to you, and read, okay? Where you can read Aeon. If you, let's say, you finished all the articles on Aeon, I mean, there are a bunch of other, websites, the Smithsonian Mag, for example, and then some free articles are given by, HBR, Harvard Business Review. You have, again, like I mentioned, a lot of books. Go to the Pulitzer website, you will see the Pulitzer winners. Come back and Google them. Some of the Google books, on Google Books, you get previews, so you can read a few pages here and there, okay? You have wonderful resources like that. Time magazine online, BBC online, okay? Guardian is absolutely free. You can just read as much as you want to. One way of finding good stuff is not just saying Guardian and opening the front page and reading politics, okay? Don't get into that kind of business, because the front page are the target audience for the front page is not as literate as you want to be, okay? So that's just for the general public. So you want to read something really good, Guardian has high quality stuff, but you need to know how to search them. Just use the search terms properly. Like, for example, I would say Guardian plus anthropology plus complex arguments. Just put this much and see some 4-5 really good articles popping up. Similarly, Guardian plus sociology plus ancient theories, something like that, okay? Just randomly put some complicated terms there, put the subject that you like, and then the website will start, because it's millions of articles sitting there, really good ones to be read, okay? Anyways, now let's look at this particular article. Although we might think, okay, please remember and get this, okay? Internalize this. Subordinate conjunctions, right? Although, while, though. It tells you even before you read the sentence, there are going to be 2 ideas. One idea will be in contrast to the other idea, okay? Although we might think of memories as being strengthened when recalled. This is idea number 1, okay? We might think of memories as being strengthened when recalled. The truth is actually more complex. This is idea number 2. That's why there's an although. Okay, you need the contrast. The advantage of knowing that there's an although is that by the end of this, you know something negative is going to come here. Okay, the strengthened is positive and although is contrast, so you know that something negative is going to come. Also remember, although doesn't indicate that there is a connection to the previous sentence, as some of you, you know, once in a while in parajumbles you look at although and you get all excited. No, it can be an independent sentence because although points to inside the sentence, not outside. Okay, recalling a memory reactivates the neurons composing the memory trace, spurring them to form new connections. See, if you notice again, this is a new idea. Recalling a memory reactivates the neurons composing the memory trace, one idea, spurring them to form new connections, second idea. The altered circuitry then becomes stable again and the memory is called reconsolidated. Okay, see, when you're reading passages, long passages, 400 500 word passages, you come across terms like this. Just make a mental note. Okay, how did we arrive here? Because question setters absolutely love you know, these kind of the terminology, because when you see terminology, question setters like, okay, I want to ask a question on this. They almost feel compelled. We start wondering, okay, something about, you know, the entire paragraph is about reconsolidation, so I should be asking some question from this. So it's important for you to make a bookmark there, because the moment you see reconsolidation in the question, you need to come back immediately to this particular piece. Anyways, so we think that memories are being you know, strengthened when recalled, but the truth is more complex. Why? Recalling a memory, and this entire thing is elaboration because it explains why. Okay, this part to this part explains why. Recalling a memory reactivates the neurons composing the memory trace, spurring them to form new connections. Altered circuitry becomes stable again, the memory is reconsolidated. And then you should, as a good reader, you should still be asking, okay, why is it complex? Okay, why is it not straightforward, more strengthening when more recalling? Because the answer is here. Reconsolidation can reinforce learning over time by strengthening neural connections, allowing the formation of new associations. So you have one more block of elaboration. Still go on and ask that question. Find reconsolidation, new connections, new neural connections, new associations. Why can't it be strengthened? As a good reader, you should keep asking that question. That's the point of good reading. Okay, there was some unanswered question in one sentence, and then authors do this a lot. Okay, they'll talk about other stuff around it and other stories and background. As a good reader, you never let go of that really good question, unanswered question that's there, because somewhere that question's answer is going to pop up. Okay, when it pops up later, and by the time, you know, at some point when you've forgotten about the question, then you'll not be able to make the connection. So unanswered questions, you have to retain them, literally, like, you know, hold on to those questions. Okay, eventually when the answer pops up, you make the connection. The moment you make a good connection like that, question and answer, everything in between will also make sense to you. That's how you remember entire passages sometimes. Okay, because a lot of passages that you see, whether in CAT or in GMAT, they're all built around one question and one answer, which is a central argument of the passage, right? So the more you hold those unanswered questions together and then fit them with the answers, the better you'll be at holding the information. Okay, anyways, so reconsolidation can reinforce learning over time, strengthening neural connections, allowing the formation of new associations. Fair enough. But okay, we know this is going to come because our negativity has still not been explained properly, right? Strengthened, and there was an although, and it was more complex, and then nothing's coming. But obviously, taking a memory trace apart and putting it back together again makes that memory vulnerable to losing its fidelity. This is your negativity. Okay, it's vulnerable. What becomes vulnerable? The memory is vulnerable to losing its fidelity. Okay, it's very important for you to again understand the exact way the author is putting those words. Taking a memory trace apart, putting it back together, which is reconsolidation, as we understand, makes that memory vulnerable to losing its fidelity. So the memory did not lose its fidelity when you put it back together. It did not become wrong, or it did not become incorrect. However, when you're doing it, the memory is vulnerable. Okay, there's a chance, basically vulnerable means there's a chance that it is not accurate. We have to read it correctly. You should not read it as, you know, oh, when you put it back together, the memory is not going to be that accurate anymore. As a chance. So it's quite possible that the entire memory is stored properly, 100% accurate. There's a chance that it's not stored properly, both. That's why it's more complex, he says. Okay, here's an example. At some point in their education, most Americans learn that Alexander Hamilton was a founding father, but not a US president. However, when a study on false memory investigated whom most Americans identify as US presidents, the subjects were more likely to incorrectly select Hamilton, but not several actual former presidents. Okay, this part is the result of the study, but this part is something I can anticipate from the however here. How do I know that? Because here he's saying he was not a US president. The moment he says however, which means something to do with this guy being president or associated president, is going to come. So then I come to this part. See, it's 10 to 12 words, more probably 15, I don't know. all of that, something you've anticipated. What happens is that's 15 words less to read. You just glance past subjects, so more likely to incorrectly select Hamilton. Yeah, fair enough. You read it fast because you're just trying to confirm whether what you anticipated was right or not. Okay, you do that good reading. You anticipated, you read fast so that you know it's correct. But you can read it fast because you know there are no surprises. You already anticipated. And reading also helps you to see if there are any surprises. Sometimes an extra idea might be there more or above or less than whatever you anticipated. Okay, that's why you have to still read. You can't just not just skip. Okay, don't fall for that bullcrap technique where people tell you read first line, last line of this paragraph, and then you just automatically magically know. All that doesn't work. Okay, and all that skimming and scamming, that's one more term I constantly want to remind people. Skimming and scamming is just skimming and scanning is just scamming you. Okay, it's scam. I'll tell you why. Because if you are so good that you can actually just skim and scan and understand the passage, your reading speed is probably already 300, 320. Why would you skim and scan? You can just finish reading the passage. 400, 450 words won't take you more than one and a half minutes. You're someone who can actually benefit from skimming and scanning. If you're that kind of person, that means your reading speed is slow, which means there is a correlation. Skimming and scanning won't work for you either. So it's like an ironical thing, right? The guy who can benefit from it doesn't need it. And the guy who's really slow can't benefit from it. The only place where you do skimming and scanning is you have time on your hand. Okay, you will want to read the passage, but you want to just know what the passage is roughly about in about 15-20 seconds. You want to glance. That much you can do. Okay, but then 20-25 seconds lost. Okay, don't forget that. So if it's skimming and scanning for about 1.5 minutes, you might as well read the passage. Okay, so again, point I'm trying to make is, please don't fall for all these magic techniques. There's no magic technique involved anywhere in reading. Anybody who's giving you any magic techniques, you have to dig a little deeper and ask if it's really benefiting you. I mean, try it out. By all means, just try it out. But when you try it out, you'll know what's happening, and then don't get depressed or demotivated that's not working for you. It doesn't work for anybody. Okay, end of the day, good readers understand well, read fast. Those are the two things you need, irrespective of how many shortcuts you learn. You can't learn just funky jargon, nothing else. Anyways, so subjects were more likely to incorrectly select Hamilton, but not several actual former presidents. This is likely to be because neurons encoding information about Hamilton were frequently activated. The frequently activated is important because from here I can infer that we are talking about these people trying to recollect this again and again. It's not only when learning something got mixed up. Frequently activated means these guys talk about Hamilton frequently and talk about other presidents frequently, and that's why that memory is probably getting mixed up. And you have to remember it like that. Frequently activated is the only part that tells you that. Okay, otherwise I would not know. I will just think, okay, while learning, because I'm learning these two things together, they get mixed up. That's not the truth. This is likely to be because neurons encoding information were frequently activated at the same time as neurons encoding information about former presidents. When are they getting activated? When you're trying to recall them, which means I'm trying to recall these two together. That's the inference. Okay, this is how you catch inferences, not given directly, but you look at some piece of information and okay, this piece of information is true, then this has to be true. Okay, because neurons that fire, again, because is another conjunction, you know that there are two parts coming. Because neurons that fire together wire together. This is one idea. So obviously I know the second part, right? Because I've already seen this. A connection between past president and Hamilton could gradually become strong enough that you would incorrectly remember Hamilton as a former president himself. I know this. Okay, I can anticipate this piece of information just from this part. Okay, neurons that fire together wire together. So what is the central argument? There are two pieces of information in whatever we've read. Part one, there's something called reconsolidation. When I recall, breakdown happens and I put back together. Okay, that makes it vulnerable to fidelity. Then there's an example. But remember, the example is not just of this. The example is a little more than this. The example is telling you that the neurons that fire together wire together. That's what the example is proving to you. Okay, that neurons when fire together wire together. So if you let's say you talk about Marvel movies, but every time you talk about Marvel movies, you also talk about DC. After you'll start mixing up. That's what I mean. DC and Marvel fans never get along well, but I'm in the best interest of unity, I just gave you this example. But you understand, right? So if you're constantly firing things together, they'll get mixed up. That's what the example is telling you. Okay, makes sense. Let's look at the questions. Question one, which of the following, if true, weakens the author's argument about reconsolidation of memories? What is the author's argument? The author's argument about reconsolidation of memories is that when you are recalling something, We think it is strengthening, but it's more complex. It becomes vulnerable to loss of fidelity. Fidelity basically is authenticity, loyalty, honesty, truth, all of that, okay? Infidel is basically cheating on someone who trusts you. So here weakens the author's argument about reconsolidation of memories. Okay, weakens it. It's very important to remember that. Now, one who often recalls memories remembers them in greater detail than one who doesn't. Okay, so this is telling you that recalling memory is actually a good thing. Looks like it is against the author, right? Possible, but what is the keyword here? Detail is the keyword. We are not talking, the author's argument is not about remembering more detail or less detail. The author's argument is about fidelity. What you remember, is it accurate or not accurate? Okay, greater detail or less detail, not a part of our discussion, right? So while it looks like it is not in favor of what's happening in the passage, this is an option that would not directly weaken, so we can eliminate this particular option. One who narrates one's memories often to friends, again, this should not be eliminated because it looks new or alien. Okay, please be careful. One who narrates one's memories often to friends is another way of saying recalling, because how will you narrate without recalling something, right? So it's very important to see something new and always decide whether it's something not connected to the passage or something that was mentioned in the passage but in a different set of words. Very important. That skill is extremely important, because oftentimes that's how we question setters will mislead you. Okay, we'll give you lots of words, similar words from the passage, twist it and make it a little different. We give you a lot of unfamiliar words, but that'll be the, that'll have something very close to the answer. Anyways, so one who narrates one's memories often to friends remembers them with greater accuracy. So more I narrate, more I recall, accuracy is actually high. Okay, opposite field is this one weakens. Okay, we'll keep it aside. One who recollects memories often is less likely to forget about them forever than one who doesn't. Now, what is the keyword here? The keyword here is about forgetting and remembering the memories. Again, we are still talking about accuracy and authenticity of the memories. So just like we eliminated A, we can also eliminate C, because the question is not about, okay, C is not exactly in tone, in the same tone as the author. So it looked like it's probably weakening, but it's not, because the subject is different. The theme is different. Less likely to forget about them means that if I recollect more, it's good, which is opposite to what the author is saying. But in which way? Not the author's argument. I'm just going to remember the memory if I'm recalling it. The author was not about remembering or not remembering, forgetting or not forgetting. It was about accuracy. So I can eliminate option C. The memories one discusses with friends frequently. Again, if you notice, narrates one's memories often to friends, one discusses with friends frequently. Just the same way of, repeating the same information. The memories one discusses with friends frequently is as reliable as the memories one discusses with less frequency. This is the tricky one. This is very close to this option. Is as reliable. Now, if it were reliable, then the author's argument will be weakened, because the author said that they're not reliable. Okay, they become vulnerable to loss of fidelity, something like that. Okay, what is the exact wording? Let me just check. Vulnerable to losing its fidelity, right? So the memories one discusses with friends frequently. Now, so it looked like, okay, fine, but this looks like it's weakening the argument. The memory one discusses with friends frequently is as reliable as the memories one discusses with less frequency. But the problem here is, and that's why critical reasoning is so important. Okay, critical reading. You have to understand what parts are we comparing here. What is being compared? Whose reliability is being compared? In the passage, the author did not compare reliability of memories. What the author said was, memory, if I recall, it will become vulnerable. Okay. Here, the author is saying memories one discusses with friends frequently. Let's say I discuss it 5 times a week. Is as reliable as the memory one discusses with less frequency. Let's say 2 times a week. I'm recalling this and I'm recalling this. So I'm comparing the reliability of 2 memories which are being recalled. The passage was about what is the reliability of a memory which is being recalled. Here, 2 situations, both cases I'm recalling. So this comparison does not matter. So it's quite likely that the author is right, that the reliability of the memory goes down when I recall it. But it goes down the same for something I recall 5 times and something I recall only 2 times. You understand? So this looks like it is weakening the argument. It's actually not weakening the argument. It's something else altogether. Which is why you have to be reading carefully. In CR, this is often an important pattern. Okay, you compare 2 unnecessary things, or you compare the author's situation. The author will be giving you situation A and B. The comparison, the option will be something inside situation B. Be careful with things like that. Okay, so the answer to this particular question will be option B. Let's look at the next question. The Alexander Hamilton example serves to strengthen the conclusion that, okay, what conclusion? Okay. when you're looking at a question which you've read, okay, there are two types of questions, right? Direct questions and indirect questions. Direct questions, the answer's there in the passage, you read about them. Indirect questions are questions where the answer's not there in the passage. You have to figure out inferences, for example, or further application questions. I give you some new case and ask you whether it strengthens or weakens. Those kind of questions. So this one, you already know the example, right? So it's important for you to think of the answer first and then look at the options, because the options always confuse you. So better to know the option. If you're not clear, you can probably go back and read the passage also. Indirect questions, you have to read the options first. Which of the following can be inferred from the passage, let's say? What can I do? I can't go and read the whole passage again, right? So I'll have to look at the options and then see what feels correct, what doesn't feel correct. Which of the following can be inferred from the second paragraph of the passage, if I've given you? The second paragraph of the passage, like 4 lines. It's important, go back to 4 lines, just read it quickly. Then come back, because now you remember it fresh. Then compare the options, easier to catch. So be a little street smart, okay? There's no one rule fits all. Be street smart about the way you go about the questions. Remember, strategy is very important. Timing is very important. How much, time you cannot afford to lose time when you are stuck in, exam-based, time-based, exams like GMAT or CAT, okay? Be careful. Anyway, the Alexander Hamilton example serves to strengthen the conclusion that memories often recollected together tend to get mixed up. Okay, reconsolidation of a memory adversely influences its trustworthiness. Fidelity of a memory reduces as the number of times the memory was recalled increases. Fidelity of memories deteriorates when they are reconsolidated after recalling. Let's compare these two and get done with them fast. Okay, because the wordings are very similar, right? Fidelity of a memory, cancel. Fidelity of memories, cancels. Reduces, deteriorates. So this cancels. Number of times the memory was recalled increases when they are reconsolidated after recalling. So the extra here is a number of times. So fidelity of memories deteriorates when they are reconsolidated after recalling. True or false? If you ask that question, does the fidelity of memories deteriorates when they are reconsolidated after recalling? We don't know, 50-50, right? Because it says becomes vulnerable to losing fidelity. That's the point, isn't it? Fidelity of a memory reduces as the number of times the memory was recalled increases. So more the number of times, then the fidelity of a memory changes. The author does not talk about number of times of recalling. Remember, we discussed in the previous question also. So this particular option goes off first, okay? We have a little dicey here. We'll just keep it aside. First point is always to get rid of the easier options. Reconsolidation of a memory adversely influences its trustworthiness, okay? Now, how is B and D different now? The fidelity of memory deteriorates versus reconsolidation memory adversely influences its trustworthiness. Reconsolidator after recalling. So this part and this part gets cancelled, if you notice. Okay. So reconsolidation of a memory, reconsolidated after recalling, whatever it is. So these two parts. Now, if I'm comparing option B and option D, what is extra? Fidelity deteriorates. Reconsolidation influences its trustworthiness. Okay. So in D, there is a surety that fidelity is going down. Okay. In B, it is saying adversely influences its trustworthiness. Okay. That it's probably not as trustworthy as possible. Okay. As close, that's pretty close, but only a small difference. Memories often recollected together tend to get mixed up. Now this is the big clue for you. Until now, it's very easy to get lost in whatever funky stuff is happening. Big clue for you is, hey, this option is entirely different from the other options, isn't it? Now put them together and ask, what is the author asking me here? Sorry, what is the questions that are asking me here? Question that is asking me, the Alexander Hamilton example serves to strengthen the conclusion. That which conclusion will it strengthen? Right. So let's say Alexander Hamilton example is true. It's happening. It's happening that people remember Hamilton as a president. Let's say that's number one. That's the first thing you have to realize, that if it's true that a lot of people think of Hamilton as a president, what is it telling me directly or indirectly? Is it telling me that reconsolidation of memory adversely influences its trustworthiness? Okay. Is it telling me fidelity of memory deteriorates when they are reconsolidated recalling? Or is it telling me memories often recollected together tend to get mixed up? Okay. That's the big question. Point is, it will be A and not B and D for two reasons. Because if you remember, what was the main idea that the example was centered around? The exact lines: neurons that fire together wire together. Because neurons that fire together wire together, a connection between past, present, and Hamilton could gradually become strong enough that you would incorrectly remember Hamilton as a former president himself. Okay, so Now, if I break it down a little further, and could be confusing, therefore it's important for you to understand what I'm going to say next. Okay, which conclusion is the example strengthening? Okay, the example is about us mistaking one person for something he or he is not, because we put those two memories together. So basically, if Alexander Hamilton example is true, it proves that there is actually breaking down and rewiring of neurons, or whatever terminology you want to use. That is happening. Only if that happens, the Alexander Hamilton problem will happen. Okay, people confuse this guy as the president. Only if there's an actual breaking down and putting it back together, only then they get wired together, right? If I'm not breaking them down, this is separate, that is separate, they'll never get mixed up. Right. So part one that it proves is that the breaking down is actually happening. Now, does B or D talk about breaking down? Reconsolidation of a memory is the breaking down, if you remember. We are not talking about fidelity here at all. Okay. Same here. Fidelity of memory deteriorates when they're reconsolidated. We're not talking about whether people are able to remember Hamilton or not. We remember Hamilton, we remember the president. So the trustworthiness or the fidelity, as close as it may seem, will get pushed aside. What we are looking for is that is there breaking down of the neurons? That is one thing it will prove. The second thing is that when they get rewired, memories often recollected together tend to get mixed up. Okay, so these two, one of these two, if I had, that's the reason I left that first part out of the option. Otherwise, it would become an even more difficult question. If one of the options said that, recalling leads to breaking and reassociation of neurons, that part also is strengthened by this particular example. Okay, that's why I did not put it. Only put memories often recollected together tend to get mixed up, which should be easy. Okay, even if you get carried away by B and D, you should ask, okay, what is happening in A? Why is this such a wrong thing? This doesn't seem such a wrong thing. Oftentimes the mistake a lot of test takers do. Okay, you're so stuck up on your answer, it's called confirmation bias. Once you've decided B is the answer, then you go and look for data. You will find data that will support B. You want D as the answer, you'll find data that will support D. That's called confirmation bias, because you're only looking for stuff that will confirm whatever we already know. You should not go about it that way. If, let's say, you want to pick B as the answer, you should be able to explain why A is not the answer. And if you have difficulty explaining why A is not the answer, that means there's some problem. Okay. So in this case, for example, there's no way you can explain why A is not the answer if you want to pick B or D. Memories often recollected together tend to get mixed up. That's what's happening here in Alexander Hamilton's case, isn't it? So you won't be able to eliminate that option. Only if you're sincere to that method, then you will generally avoid wrong answers, generally avoid silly mistakes. Okay, silly mistakes happen when you misread option, one particular option, like fine, most of it is true, and you pick that as the answer. That won't happen if you ask, why is the other option wrong? Fine, this looks very correct. Why is that option wrong? You have to be able to explain. The other advantage is, if you were able to explain, let's say, why A is wrong and B is the answer. Let's say B is wrong and A is the answer. You will know from the solution later, or whoever is giving you the text explanation, as to the part that you thought was true, why is it wrong? That explanation you'll have to figure out. You ask some teacher, okay, whoever you have access to. That will help you learn. So you thought something was true, but it did not turn out to be true, or you thought something was not true, turned out to be true. What led to that mistake? That would have come from some misreading of yours from the passage. So you try to figure out. Eventually, that's the mission. For every wrong answer, or you pick the right answer, but for the long logic, still counts as wrong, okay, later for analysis. You always try to trace it back to the mistake in the reading. Something you have misread it, that's why your idea was wrong. Trace it back to that and then figure out why. So you generally get it wrong because A, you misread a particular word, you do not know the meaning of a word, then it happens, or you missed critical reasoning, or you missed grammar. These are the only three types of mistakes you can make. So you have to trace it back. Every mistake you keep tracing back to why I made this mistake. Did the language trouble me? Did the grammar trouble me? Did the critical reasoning trouble me? Language and grammar, easy problems to solve. Critical reasoning takes a lot of patience and learning and stuff. Okay, I hope you benefited from this video. If yes, please share, subscribe, like, smash the button. Okay, until next time, peace out.